March 21st, 1956. The Pantages Theater in Hollywood is buzzing with a frenetic, electric energy. It is the 28th Academy Awards. Outside, the air is thick with the scent of expensive cigars, exhaust from idling limousines, and the heavy floral notes of Chanel No. 5. This was the peak of the Golden Age, a time when movie stars weren't just actors. They were gods walking among mortals. And on this night, all eyes were on one man. Standing at 6'4", with a jawline that looked like it was carved from the very granite of the California mountains, Rock Hudson was the definition of the American alpha male. To the millions of women watching on their flickering black and white television sets, he was the ultimate lady killer. He was the man every man wanted to be, and every woman wanted to be with. But as Rock stepped out of his limousine into the blinding white light of 1,000 flashbulbs, he wasn't thinking about his Oscar nomination for the film Giant. He wasn't thinking about his competition or his acceptance speech. He was thinking about a secret so explosive that if it were revealed, it wouldn't just end his career. It would erase his entire existence from the map of American culture. In the mid-50s, Rock Hudson wasn't just a star. He was a multi-million-dollar industry. Universal Pictures had spent a fortune branding him as the Bachelor of the Century. They staged his dates with beautiful starlets. They wrote fake at-home profiles about his love for steak, fast cars, and hunting. And they carefully curated a persona of rugged, heterosexual perfection. But the man the world knew as Rock Hudson simply didn't exist. He was a phantom, a ghost created in a studio backlot. To understand how he became the greatest lie in Hollywood history, we have to go back to a cold winter in Winnetka, Illinois. Long before the lights of Los Angeles, there was only Roy Scherer Jr., and his life was anything but a movie. Roy was born on November 17, 1925. His childhood was defined not by glamour, but by abandonment and poverty. When Roy was only 5 years old, his father, Roy Sr., a car mechanic, lost his job during the Great Depression and simply walked out. He didn't just leave the house, he left the state, abandoning Roy and his mother, Kay, to a world that was suddenly very cold and very empty. This initial trauma was only the beginning. Roy's mother was a telephone operator who struggled to keep food on the table. Several years later, she remarried a man named Wallace Fitzgerald. It was a name Roy would eventually carry as his own, but it was a name born of trauma and physical pain. Wallace was a harsh, violent man who physically abused Roy's mother and showed nothing but contempt for the boy. In this house of fear and secrets, Roy learned his first lesson in acting: how to mask your emotions, how to stay silent, and how to become invisible to survive. For young Roy, the local movie palace wasn't just a theater, it was a sanctuary. He escaped the violence of his home by losing himself in the romantic figures on the screen, projecting himself into worlds where the hero always won and the father never left.
I could never freely say, I'm going to be an actor when I grow up, because that's just sissy stuff. Nor did I enter the drama society or anything like that, because I was too busy and had to work all the time, so I couldn't do any form of extracurricular activity.
Even as a teenager at New Trial High School, Roy knew that expressing a desire to act was a dangerous move. In the hyper-masculine world of the 1930s Midwest, acting was synonymous with sissy stuff. He was an awkward, shy boy who had to help support his mother after her second divorce. He delivered telegrams, he worked as a golf caddy, and he pushed himself to be the man of the house before he was even a man. He learned to bury his heart before he ever learned to read a script. After serving as an airplane mechanic in the Navy during World War II, Roy returned home briefly, but the darkest places of his past were no longer enough for him. In 1946, he moved to Los Angeles, with nothing but a dream and a single headshot. In the beginning, he was just another face in the crowd, a delivery driver who spent his lunch breaks leaning against his truck outside the gates of Universal and MGM, looking at a world he wasn't allowed to enter. He sent his photo to every agent in town, but only one man responded. Destiny arrived in the form of Henry Willson. If Rock Hudson was the face of the era, Henry Willson was its dark heart. Willson was a man who lived in the shadows, a power broker who manufactured stars from Raw, Beefcake. He had a sixth sense for men who were physically imposing but emotionally damaged, men he could control and mold into whatever the public desired. When Willson met Roy Fitzgerald, he didn't see an actor. In fact, he saw a man who couldn't even deliver a single line without stuttering. But he saw the look. He signed him on the spot, but knew the name Roy Fitzgerald was too common. He wanted a name that sounded like a force of nature, something that felt like a foundation. Rock never truly connected with his stage name. To him, it was a label owned by the studio. His longtime co-star and dear friend, Stephanie Powers, later recalled a conversation that revealed just how little the studio cared about his identity.
I asked him once where he got the name, and he said, well, it was better than Jump or Click, which were the other two choices that he got. And I thought Click Hudson was pretty funny, but, and that's how he looked at it.
To Henry Willson, he wasn't a man, he was a product. If Click had sounded more profitable, that's who the world would have known. Rock never liked the name. He used to joke that he had trouble pronouncing it at first, but he wanted to be a star more than he wanted his own identity. Willson introduced his new creation to director Raoul Walsh, who took one look at the tall, nervous kid and gave the most prophetic quote in film history. Even if he can't do anything, he'll make good scenery. But Hollywood scenery was expensive to maintain. The studio system of the 1950s was a totalizing machine. It wasn't just a workplace. It was a parent, a lawyer, and a police force. The publicity departments took care of everything. They chose the house you lived in, they hired your gardener, and they even chose who you took to dinner. In exchange, you signed over your privacy. Every contract included the dreaded morality clause. To understand the weight of this clause, you have to understand the era. This was the time of the Lavender Scare. While the government was hunting for communists, they were also hunting for subversives in the bedroom. Being gay wasn't just a scandal. It was considered a mental illness and a national security risk. For Rock Hudson, the stakes were astronomical. He was Universal's biggest investment. If the public found out the Bachelor of the Century was living a double life, the studio wouldn't just fire him, they would be ruined. Rock was living in a gilded cage, protected by a network of studio fixers whose job was to make problems disappear. The greatest threat to this cage wasn't the police. It was a magazine called Confidential. In the mid-1950s, Confidential was the most feared publication in America. It didn't play by the rules of the Hollywood studios. Their motto was, tells the facts and names the names. They had a network of tipsters, waiters, hotel maids, and disgruntled ex-lovers who were paid handsomely to spill the secrets of the stars. In late 1955, the editor of Confidential, Robert Harrison, let it be known that he had a 10,000-word file on Rock Hudson. He had the photos, the dates, and the names of Rock's secret life. If that story hit the stands, Universal stood to lose over $100 million in box office revenue. The Bachelor of the Century would become a pariah overnight. Henry Willson was called into an emergency meeting at the studio. The air was thick with panic. Willson knew that money wouldn't stop Robert Harrison. Harrison wanted a headline that would sell millions of copies. So, Willson made a choice that would haunt Hollywood history forever. He decided to offer up a human sacrifice. Willson didn't just protect Rock, he performed a cold-blooded trade. he went to the editors and handed them the files on two of his other clients, Tab Hunter and Rory Calhoun. He gave them the details of Tab's arrest at a disorderly house and Rory's secret prison record from his youth. It was a brutal calculation. Tab Hunter was young and successful, but he was starting to rebel against Willson's control. Rory Calhoun was a rising star, but he wasn't the golden boy. By feeding these two men to the wolves, Willson satisfied the magazine's hunger for a scandal. The story on Rock was killed, the files were burned, and the public's attention was diverted to the disgraced Tab Hunter. Rock Hudson was safe, but the price was the wreckage of two other men's lives. This was the dark reality of the studio system. You were only as safe as your agent's last betrayal. To stop the rumors for good, Willson knew he needed a permanent fix. He needed a wedding. On November 9th, 1955, just weeks after the confidential scandal was buried, Rock Hudson married Phyllis Gates. Phyllis wasn't a starlet. She was Henry Willson's own secretary. To the outside world, it was a whirlwind romance. In reality, it was a business transaction designed to seal the lavender curtain forever. The marriage was a ghost story. Phyllis later claimed she was a victim who truly loved Rock and had no idea about his secret life. Others in the industry whispered that she was a professional beard, hired to play a role for a salary. Regardless of the truth, the life behind closed doors was one of profound isolation. Rock was often away on location, while Phyllis stayed in a house that felt more like a movie set than a home. By the time they divorced 3 years later, the Bachelor label was gone, replaced by the image of a divorced man, a much safer title in 1950s Hollywood. But while his personal life was a lie, his career was reaching atmospheric heights. In 1956, Rock was sent to the scorching heat of Marfa, Texas, to film The Epic Giant. This wasn't just another romantic comedy. It was an American masterpiece. It was here, surrounded by dust and oil derricks, that Rock would form the most important relationship of his life. Not with a lover, but with a protector, Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth saw through the Rock Hudson persona within days. She saw Roy, the shy, frightened man hiding behind the jawline. Instead of pulling away, Elizabeth stepped in. She became his secret ally. They would sit up until dawn in their trailers, drinking vodka and talking about the lives they were forced to lead. Elizabeth became the guardian of his secret, often appearing on his arm at events specifically to deflect the vultures of the press. She loved him with a fierce platonic loyalty that would last until the day he died. Yet, even Elizabeth couldn't stop the FBI. Declassified documents later revealed that agents had been keeping a file on Rock since the early 50s. In the era of the Red Scare and the Lavender Scare, the government viewed gay men as security risks. Rock wasn't just being watched by gossip columnists. He was being watched by the most powerful surveillance machine in the world. He lived a double life that was exhausting. He had a custom-built home in Beverly Hills with a secret wing where he could finally be Roy. He was one of the most famous men on earth, yet he was essentially a shut-in. By the late 1950s, Rock's career shifted once more. Universal's producer Ross Hunter realized that Rock had a hidden talent for light comedy. In 1959, they paired him with Doris Day for Pillow Talk. It was a massive gamble that paid off, transforming Universal into a major studio overnight. Rock demonstrated a knack for physical comedy that no one expected. The atmosphere on those sets was light, but the reality was still a performance. Rock and Doris became the romantic comedy team of the 60s, following in the footsteps of Tracy and Hepburn. Rock later said that making comedies with Doris was the best time he ever had. But even as he made the world laugh, he was searching for something deeper. In 1966, Rock finally did something unthinkable. He formally cut his ties to Universal, his home for 17 years, and became a free agent. He was looking for roles that would reach inside and pull out something else. He found it in the film Seconds, directed by John Frankenheimer. It was a dark, far-out film that Rock considered his best acting work. But the public didn't want him to change. They wanted the scenery. They wanted The Bachelor. Seconds was a box office failure, and Rock learned a painful lesson. The mask he had built was so perfect that he was no longer allowed to take it off. He was a very practical man. When the movies as he knew them were over, he didn't sit around. He switched to television. He brought a legitimacy and vitality to Macmillan and Wife. He knew the difference between the big screen and the small screen. On television, he was an elegant police commissioner with old money, a character that survived when other big stars failed. He was a pro, a tone setter on set who never came in unprepared. He made life better for everyone else, even as his own world remained a series of strictly controlled stipulations. In the 1970s, Rock took a risk that terrified him: the stage. He toured in I Do, with Carol Burnett, singing and dancing for the first time. The stage was too damn naked for a man like Rock, but he had the guts to do it. Later, he took on the role of King Arthur in Camelot. For a man built on a macho image, wearing tights was an agonizing embarrassment. He was a big guy, and suddenly, everyone could see his legs. Once he got over the embarrassment, he did wonderfully. He realized that when you're playing in front of that many people, you can literally feel the waves of affection coming across the footlights. He worked so hard for it because he believed that if you didn't have to work really hard, it wasn't a stretch for you. His greatest problem in Camelot was the speech that closed the first act. He was terrified of it, but it was what he did best.
I'm a king, not a man. And a civilized king. Could it possibly be civilized to destroy what I love? Could it possibly be civilized to love myself above all? What of their pain and their torment? Did they opt for this calamity? Can Paxton be selected? Is there any doubt of their devotion to me? Or to our table? By God, Excalibur, we shall be a king. This is the time of King Arthur, and we reach for the stars. This is the time of King Arthur, where violence is not strength, and compassion is not weakness. We are civilized. Resolved. We shall live through this together, Excalibur. They, you, and I. And God have mercy on us all.
His life was full of these moments of deep connection with his fans. He once attended an event for the Southern Methodist University Film Archive in a tent. When the Martha, Texas High School marching band walked in, and the kids all screamed and wanted to touch him, Rock stood there with big tears in his eyes. He felt a great loyalty to them, which is why he kept his personal life so personal. He believed an actor was a fool to let the public know too much. He quoted the great Henry Irving, "I cannot convince the man I am Hamlet if I was telling jokes with him in a bar 10 minutes before." In his private life, he remained childlike. He loved Scrabble, cards, and massive Super Bowl parties. He was a Christmas fanatic. He once built a fire in his fireplace without any logs just to create the atmosphere, decorating with 30 kinds of ribbon. He was mother, father, and brother to his mother Kay until she passed away in 1973. The end didn't come with a magazine expose. It came with a cough. In 1984, while filming Dynasty, people noticed he was gaunt and thin. He dismissed it as dieting, but by 1985, His body could no longer keep the secret. His final appearance was as Doris Day's first guest on her new show. Doris Day, one of his best friends, looked at him and saw the truth. On October 2nd, 1985, Rock Hudson died of AIDS-related complications at the age of 59. The lavender curtain was finally torn down, but the American public could not stop loving him. As one friend said, it was like a mother finding out her son was gay and dying. She couldn't take away the love they already felt. His death was a great service in a strange, sad way. He put a face to a pandemic. He helped millions of people begin to talk about a disease they had ignored. Rock Hudson lived 60 years in a cage built by Henry Willson in Universal Pictures. He died a hero, but he lived as a prisoner. He was a man who gave the world everything, but was never allowed to keep anything for himself. Was the fame worth the price of his soul? Let me know in the comments. Was Rock Hudson's greatest role his movies, or the life he kept hidden? Thanks for watching.